Hey everyone, it's me, Rami Marks, your tangled yogi out here in Northern California. Welcome to the lively Ladybug Zentangle inspired class. I'm going to be teaching this for the San Rafael Public Library tomorrow, but I thought I would share it with you as well. So let's talk about the things that we're going to need for class today. I'm going to be working with the Micron PN Pen, but you can use your favorite Tangle pen. I have the Sakura Jelly Roll 8 for some highlighting. I'm going to be working with a graphite pencil and a blender. If you don't have a blending stump, you can always grab a Q-tip out of the bathroom, no problem. I'm also going to be working with, you know me, I love my Prismacolors, but if you don't have Prismacolors, just grab your favorite color pencils and play along. Now you know that I love to work with the Genesis tile from Tangled Yogi. This one's a little bit messy. But if you're interested in the Genesis tile, you can head over to tangledyogi.com. They're in the shop there. These tiles are 4.5 by 4.5 inches, super smooth paper, and they're really great for receiving color pencil. So with that said, let's get started with the lively Ladybug class. So many of you know that I like to do a little centering before we actually get started with our Zentangle practice. So let's go ahead and take a comfortable seated position here and let your feet touch down onto the floor. Allow your spine to grow comfortably tall and let your shoulders melt down away from your ears. You can let your hands rest in your lap, and if you're okay with it, allow your eyes to close for a moment. And just taking a moment to let your attention come to your breath as you breathe in and as you breathe out. And just taking a moment to notice, is your breath really shallow or full? Whatever it is, just noticing how your breath is right now. Not judging it, just noticing. And beginning to deepen the breath here. As you breathe in to the count of 4, and then hold the breath in for 4, and then exhaling to the count of 8. Breathing in for 4, hold the breath in for 4, and then exhaling to the count of 8. And one more time, breathing in for 4, holding the breath for 4, and exhaling to the count of 8. And then letting your breath return to its natural pace, and just notice if the breath is a little bit easier, a little bit fuller. And as we breathe here for the next moment or two, I thought I'd share a quote about ladybugs. One of my favorite movies is Under the Tuscan Sun, and one of the characters talks about being in search of ladybugs, and she said, "Listen, when I was a little girl, I used to spend hours looking for ladybugs. Finally, I'd just give up and fall asleep in the grass, and when I woke up, they were all over me." And I just love this idea. And the reason why I included this quote in the class is because I found a beautiful piece of pottery that had a very similar design on it, and it just inspired me so much. And one of the things that I know as an artist is inspiration can kind of be elusive. And so if you go chasing after it like ladybugs, you might be just chasing your tail. And if you wait for it to show up, sometimes it'll just show up on its own. And that, I think, is a really interesting thing about the creative process. So just taking one more deep breath right here, and let it go with a sigh. And let's get started with the lively ladybug. Let's begin the regular old-fashioned Zentangle way here. I'm going to start with my graphite pencil, and I'm going to do really shallow dots, meaning that my dots are coming in pretty close to my corners, but not on top of the corners here. I'm leaving it so that we have a nice soft frame that's going to go around the piece. So I'm going to go ahead and start to connect my dots here, and you can see that I'm just going around and doing the best I can to connect them very softly. So no rulers here, just doing it by eye. Remember, we want to make handmade art here. So once we've got that, I'm going to go ahead and do what we call a string. And a string is just the way that we divide the space in Zentangle. So I'm just going to come up to the top there in the middle, or what looks to be the middle, and I'm going to just very, very gently start to divide the space in half, like so. Then I'll go over to the other side and do it again so that we end up with 4 squares. So it should look a little something like that. So go ahead and do yours. I'm going to do mine, and then when we come back, we're going to do a little bit more of a string in the center. So I'm going to continue to work with my pencil here, and in the center I'm going to do a circle that's about the size of a small coin. And then around that circle I'm going to go ahead and do an aura. An aura is exactly what you think it is. It's just a little echo line. And then once I have that nice circle with the aura there, I'm going to go into the very center and do a smaller circle in the center. Once I've got that smaller circle in the center, you can see that I've got these quadrants in which I can work in. I'm just going to go ahead and make these soft crescent moon shapes that are going to fill the space and give a really nice meta tangle in here. You can see that it almost looks like the 4 corners there, which is really pretty. Now around the circle, I'm going to add another set of these crescent moons, and I'm going to keep them fairly low. So you can see that all I'm doing is just bringing that across, bringing this one across, and this one across. So you'll end up with a nice little shape that looks like that. So go ahead and do yours. I'm going to finish up mine, and then when we come back, we're going to work with our first tangle. So our first tangle of the day is Harari, and Harari is one of those beautiful tangles that you can do so much with, and I love it because it looks like the letter U. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to come in and I'm going to make the letter U. And you can see I've got a little flare on each of those edges there, really soft flares on the edge. And then I'll come back in and make these really beautiful little flaps for the petal of our flower here. I'm going to come in right above the top and do a really soft wave that's going to come in just like so. And that is the tangle Harari. So go ahead and do yours just to give yourself a little sketch and get the feel of it, and then we're going to bring it into our composition. Let's bring Harari into the piece here. I've got my graphite pencil in my hand here, and I'm going to be working up in this corner. So I'm going to turn the piece so that it almost looks like a diamond in there. Now I'm going to come up to the middle, and then I'm going to drop down about 1/4 of an inch and make a little dot. I don't want Harari to go past that dot. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with my U first, and so I'm just going to come in right over here and just start with a U that's going to touch here, and it's going to come over and touch here. I'm going to give a little flare on the edge, just like so. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to turn, and I'm going to do the same thing. So I'm just going to come to the middle and then drop down about 1/4 of an inch, and then I'm going to do the U. Going to turn my tile, come to the middle here, drop down 1/4 of an inch, and then once again creating the U. Going one more time here, got a little something on my paper. Come into the middle, drop down about 1/4 of an inch, and once again creating the U. So once I've got those in there, you can see what it looks like. So go ahead and do yours, and then when we come back, we're going to build a little bit more. Once I've got the U in there, I'm going to start in with those little flaps. I'll go to the next one and do the same. Next one and do the same. Next one. And even just like that, that's a really cool little tangle, I think. So we're just going to continue on here. I'm going to come back to this square that I have in here, and I'm just going to make that very soft rounded shape at the top, and then I'm going to come over and land. Same thing over here and land. Okay? I'm going to go to the next one and do the same. Coming up, making that soft rounded edge, and then come down and come down. Same thing over here. Rounded edge, come in and come in. So it's just a little soft wave. So it'll look a little something like that. So go ahead and do yours. I'm going to finish up mine, and then when we come back, we're going to work in the in-between. So let's build Harari a little bit more here. So I'm going to come up about maybe 1/4 of an inch down from the top here, and I'm just going to make a little dot there so that I don't go any further. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start to build in another Harari in here that's going to be in the in-between. So it's going to go and come in between just like so, almost as if you were drawing that U in, and then I'm going to go ahead and make that little wave come into the sides, and then I'll build the little flap in like so. Super soft, super easy. Turning my tile, looking for the next one, coming down about 1/4 of an inch, making a little dot just to guide yourself here. I'm going to go ahead and make the U. Soft wave at the top, connecting on each side, and then making your little flap. Coming over here, next one, dropping down, make your little U on either side, soft wave, connect, nice flap, and then once again, coming in right here, dropping down, soft U, make your wave and connect, and then once again, little flaps on each side. Isn't that so fun? I love the way that this tangle looks. It's got a really pretty feel to it. So go ahead and do yours. I'm going to do mine, and then when we come back, we're going to start to build out into the corners. Let's begin to build out into the corners here. I'm going to come into this area that's right here and right here, and I'm going to use those spaces as a guide. So I'm just going to turn this here, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to come up to the corner, and I'm going to create this aura that's going to dive into where Harari is. I'm going to do the same thing over here and let it dive into Harari. I'm going to go to the next one and do the same thing, coming to the corner, diving in, coming to the corner, and diving in. Turning the tile, coming to the next one, right here, diving in, and one more time, diving in. Turning the tile, last one right here, just like so. And you can see that this is really going to start to build out quite nicely. So go ahead and do yours. I'm going to finish up mine, and then when we come back, we're going to start to build into these petals. So our next tangle is called Y4, and it's by Headquarters here. And it's a really fun tangle, super easy. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to make a line that comes up, around, and then I'm going to put a little bit of a hook on it. I'm going to do the same thing over here, so it's just up, around, and put a little hook on it. Now with these little hooks in here, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to attach to the center, and then I'm also going to go towards the bottom, and you can see that it already starts to make that look like a flap. Then what I'll do is I'll come around the top, just like we did with Harari, and give that a little bit of a little arc. Now, a lot of the time what people will do is put a little like gemstone at the top of this, so I'm just going to put in a little soft gemstone. And then a lot of tanglers love to put a little design on the inside, and so you can see that I'm going to do a little aura in here, and then I'm going to bring in a nice little triangle and aura that triangle, just to give it some interest. So that is Y4, and we're going to bring Y4 into our piece right now. So go ahead, take a moment to play with this, and then in a moment we're going to bring this in. So to bring Y4 into our piece here, I'm going to start, and you can see that I'm still using my graphite pencil, and this is just to give you a little bit of confidence as you're doing this. You can see that I've got Harari here, and I've got these kind of little indentations. All I'm going to do is I'm going to come up a little bit, and then I'm going to make those little hooks on either side, and I'm using the edge of Harari to build Y4. Little Zentangle speak there. Let's go ahead and zoom in on this here. Now I'm going to come in and I'm going to attach, and I'll do this on the other side. 1 and 2. Super easy, super fun. I'm going to go ahead and create that little arc going across the top. And you can see that I'm keeping Y4 a little low so that I can do some work around the outside edge of my leaf here. I'm going to put a little gemstone on top, and then I can go in and put my little pattern right in here. Super fun, super easy. Let's go to the next one and do it. So I'm just going to come in, coming up, I'm going to say maybe about 3/4 of an inch, make the hook, over here, make the hook. You can see where I am on Harari here, I'm right under, the midpoint there. Coming in on either side, creating a little arc, and then once again putting a little gemstone on the top, and a little detailing. Just like so. Keeping it super mellow here. Really fun. Let's go to the next one. Looking for the midpoint here, coming up. Here we go again. Letting it attach. Create your arc. Put in your gem. A little aura. And a little aura, and once again that nice soft V coming in there. Super fun, super easy. Last one right here, and you can see I'm trying to keep these all about the same height here. Attaching, arcing, gemstone, and once again. So you can see that when I zoom out, look at how fun that is. I'm going to just give that guy another aura right there. And look at how fun. So go ahead and do yours. I'm going to finish up mine, and then when we come back, we're going to do a little bit more work inside of our leaves. I have these really nice leaf-like shapes out here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in and just give them a really soft aura, letting it connect over here, coming in, and letting it connect over there. And I'm going to do that all the way around. So I'm keeping it really close, nice and narrow here. Taking my time. Remember to breathe. Sometimes when we get determined, we hold our breath. So just playing with mindfulness as you're creating here. Super fun, super easy. So there you have it. So go ahead and do yours. I'm going to finish up mine, and then when we come back, we're going to start to add some leaves in there. So we're going to start to add a little detailing in here, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to come in from right where that gemstone is and create this kind of arc-like shape that's going to come to the corner, and then it's going to drop down. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to continue to make these little aura-like shapes that are going to step down all the way around Y4. So you're going to see me start to turn my tile and let it come out from Y4. They're almost like the tangle flux. So you can see that I'm just letting them kind of go out like that. And then I'll come over here and I'll do the same. So it's just kind of like an arced-like shape. And as I move about the tangle, I'm turning and coming out at an angle here. And I'll do one more right over here and let it attach. And so it'll look a little something like that. So go ahead and do yours. I'm going to do mine just like that in each of these corners. Okay. So I'm guessing that you're probably looking at this going, oh my God, this is really busy. But I promise you that once we start inking this in and bringing in color, it's going to calm the whole thing down and make it really, really fun. So I'm going to pick up my pen here, and I've got my Pigma pen in my hand, but this is the same as the Micron PN pen. And I'm just going to start from the center and work my way out. So what I'm going to do is I'll just go ahead and start by creating the circles first, and you can see that I'm really taking my time. If you go really quickly, your lines will give you away. So the idea of Zentangle is to move slowly, hence the mascot of the snail. They want you to move slow, and so I'm going slow. You can see that I'm starting to work my way out. Coming to those inner pieces in here and just getting them taken care of. So once I've got that circle taken care of, I'm going to come out to where we started here, and I'm going to work with the U's first. I'll go ahead and build the flaps, and this is really good for your building of your synapses in the brain. You're relearning these tangles every time that you come back to them, which is great. So I'm just going to start to build that out, and then I'll come up to Y4 and rebuild Y4. Coming in and in, creating the arc over the top. And this is where, like, you might see if there's lines that you didn't care for that you can rework. And then once again, I'm going to let this dive down and touch Harari there. Just like so. And then I'm going to come up to the top and I'm going to start to build those nice arcs. And you can see I'm really taking my time with these, cleaning up anything that just doesn't serve me. You can see that I'm turning my tiles so that I can make it easier for my hand to move. And just bringing it back in. Going over to the other side here. Coming back in and bringing that over. And then finally, I'm going to start to bring in the central Harari over here, just to kind of clean that up. I'll work with the petals. Coming down. I'll do the other side. Coming down. And then finally what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in that leaf-like shape. Let it touch in. You can see how slow that I'm going with this. Really take your time. Zentangle is a great place to practice taking your time. Here comes the aura. Just like so. So you can see how I handled that whole corner there. I'm going to do the same thing in each of these as well. You go ahead and do yours. I love how when you ink it in, it starts to bring a little calmness to the piece. Now we're going to add a little bit more to it, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up into Y4 here, and you're going to see that I have the little gemstone on top. All I'm going to do is make a little crescent moon in there. Let's go ahead and zoom in on this. And then I'm going to pool my ink into this little area right here, and that gives it a really nice feel to it. So I'm going to go to the next one and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm actually going to do this with all four, but I'll show it again one more time so that you can see it. And I'm puddling my ink in here. And remember, when you work with your pen, go nice and light with it. The lighter you go, the more the ink flows, right? So just keep it nice and light. And last one right here. Super fun, super easy. So go ahead and do yours. I'm going to finish up mine, and then when we come back, it's time for ladybugs. So you can see that I've got my two leaves right here. I'm going to come into this little indentation that I have, and I'm going to create a little ladybug that's going to be coming out into my border there. So you're going to see me just make a couple of dots here, and these are going to be my takeoff and land points. So all I'm going to do is create a little arc, and then above that I'm going to do another little arc right there, and that's going to be his head. I'm going to give him his legs. And then once I have that, I'm going to come down from the center and just create this kind of upside down V. Now for me, when I'm doing ladybugs, I have to be really mindful not to make the spots too big. So I keep my spots fairly small so that it doesn't compete with the head of the ladybug. So you can see that I'm just getting a couple of those in there. Maybe one over here. It's a young ladybug. And then I'll come up into where the head is and give it a little bit of pooling of ink, leaving a little spot where the sun is shining on his head here, or her head. And then I'll give a couple of little antennae coming off the edge. Now we all know that they have these little underwings, and so I'm just going to go ahead and give the underwings here, and I'm just going to do a little bit of slatting for the underwing. So super fun, super easy. I'm going to come and do it again so that you can see it one more time. So I'm just going to go in, make my two little dots right where the indentation is. I'm going to make a nice arc, let them connect, do another arc right above, and then I'm going to go ahead and bring the wings in. Do the little antennae, the little legs. And then once again with the spots, you want to make sure that you keep the spots nice and small so that it doesn't compete with the ladybug head. And then I'll go ahead and do my little crescent moon. Just like so. Once again, creating those little under wings in here and doing those little slats. And you can see that it's just really fun having them kind of come out from each corner here. And each corner will look a little bit different, you know, they always do. I'll go one more time. And go ahead and put that little head on it. And each ladybug will be a little bit different because no ladybug is the same, right? Putting in our little dots. And creating the top. Little antennae. Super fun, super easy. I'm going to go ahead and do one more on the other side, but I just love how they're kind of climbing out from underneath this beautiful flower that we've created. So you go ahead and do yours. I'm going to finish up mine. So let's add one more detail into the piece here. I'm going to start to work in our main Hararis, the first ones that we did. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to come in from the center here, and I'm going to do the tangle fescue. And fescue is just a line with a teardrop on it. So that's fescue right there. I'm going to do two more, and you'll notice that all of the fescue's heads are going in the same direction here, and that they're a little bit smaller. Super fun, super easy. So we're going to skip the one in the middle and go to the next one. Just like so. Going to the next one. So not this one, but that one. Pool your ink. I love what fescue does. It just brings a little bit of attention into the center. And look at how cool that is. Isn't that fun? I just love the way that that looks. So you go ahead and do yours. I'm going to finish up mine, and then when we come back, we're going to add one more little detail into the center of these Hararis. So one of the things that I like to do is I like to draw the eye from the outside to the inside here. And you can see in the middle of my Harari, I've got a little bit of space in between. And so I'm going to bring one of these into here. So depending on what you've got available in your piece, all I'm going to do is you can see that I've got this little area right in here. And I'm going to create a little arc, make my little crescent moon, and I'm going to pool my ink into the crescent moon. I'm going to turn my tile, and I'm going to do it again. So I've got this nice little area right in here. And I'm pooling my ink just like so. And continuing on. And last one over here. And if you don't have the space for it, you don't have to do it. It's not a big detail, it's just a little detail. Okay, so go ahead and do yours. I'm going to finish up mine, and then when we come back, it's time for color. So if you have any pencil lines that you want to let go of, I happen to have one of these really nice gummy erasers. These are wonderful because they don't leave a lot of that debris that other erasers do, and they tend not to smear and smudge ink as much as other erasers do. So you can see that I'm kind of going through and cleaning up any kind of pencil lines that might be in my way. So if you want to go ahead and do yours, go ahead and do yours, and then when we come back, we're going to start with color. So let's start to bring some color into this. I know it looks really busy right now, but as soon as we bring color into this, it's going to bring a lot of gravity into the piece. So the colors that I'm going to be using today are Scarlet Lake PC923, and then I also have in my hand Yellowed Orange PC1002. If you don't have Prismacolors, what I'm really looking for is a really nice cool red and a warm yellow. So I'm going to start with the red first, but I want to talk about color just for a second. Remember, each color is 3 different colors. You have your light, you have your medium, and you have your dark. It's all about the amount of pressure you're putting on your pencil. We're going to always start with the light first. Okay? So I've got my pencil really well sharpened up, and that helps a bunch. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just first come into Harari, and I'm going to just go very, very lightly and dust color into Harari. You can see the way that I'm holding my pencil, I'm really far back. I'm not on the front of it. And this gives me a little bit more freedom for when I'm working with a piece. So once I've got that in there, I'm going to also dust in a little bit on the outside edge. You'll notice that I'm leaving a little light highlight right on the inside. Now, here's where the magic starts to happen. I'm going to start to give a little bit of pressure to that pencil. I'm not going as hard as I possibly can go. I'm just going about a medium pressure. You're going to see me kind of work my way through. Notice that the pencil is going in a circular motion. And then I'm letting it come up the side. I'm going to let it dust out, giving a little bit of drama. And then I'm going to come back down again into the center and give this a little bit of pressure. You can see that it starts to get that beautiful rich color. On the sides here, I'm just going to hug that black line just to give this a little bit of drama. On the same thing on the outside here, I'm just going to give this a medium pressure. Notice how I'm leaving some of the light color in there too. And same thing over here. Once I've got it the way that I want it, I'm going to pick up that yellow. And what I love about working with the yellow is I can break up all my lines of demarcation. You'll notice that I'm just hovering over those areas where that darker red is meeting the lighter red, and then I'm going to start to work my way out, and I'm hardly putting any pressure on this pencil. I'm going to let it start to work its way out and give a little bit of drama to Harari. Now around the edge here, you can see that I'm kind of dipping into where that ridge is. I'm going to leave it lighter. And then I'll come in over here and do the same thing, nice and soft. Same thing over here. Notice how I'm leaving the highlight up at the top. And then for those of you who know me, you know that I love to work with the white pencil to bring a little bit of that softness to a piece. You can see right now this has got a little bit of scratch to it. I'm just going to come in with a white pencil and start to blend it in a little bit and give it almost a creaminess of color. See how that's softened it up quite a bit? Just working my way through and getting into it. Super fun, super easy. So I'm going to go through all the main Hararis here and do just that. You go ahead and do yours as well. So let's bring in a little bit more color into the other Hararis that we have here. I'm going to go ahead and zoom in on this one. And we're going to use a similar technique, but we're going to add a little bit of graphite to it. So I'm going to come in and I'm going to work very, very softly with that red. Remember, we always go with the light first, right? So just dusting that through. Once I've got that in, I'm going to add a little bit of a shadow, but also leave a little bit of highlight on the edge. Coming in and giving this a little bit of drama, but with medium pressure. And I'm really going to let that start to work its way up a little bit. Coming in over here and giving that a little bit of a shadow. Coming in over here and giving this a little bit of a shadow. Little shadow in here, little shadow in there, right? So the same way that we started before, except I'm not going to use the red for the high drama, and I'll show you what I mean in a minute. So you can see that I've picked up that yellow, and I'm letting it kind of break up the line of demarcation in here, giving it a little bit of a glow. Now once I've got that, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pick up graphite. This is my regular pencil that I started with here. And I'm just going to bring a soft shadow with the graphite. Now many of you know that I'm left-handed and I don't like to use graphite until I absolutely have to, but I've been working with a technique with the Prismacolors that I really enjoy, and that is that I set the color, or I set the graphite with the Prismacolor. And you can see that I've got the yellow in my hand here, and I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to do little circles right over the graphite. And that kind of pushes the graphite around a little bit so that it blends it, but it also makes that look like it's got a little shadow, so that almost like these are on top of that. So I love the idea that it has a little shadow to it. And then the other thing that you can do is you can come in with a little bit of your white pencil and just kind of blur it in and get it really nice and soft in there. I just love the way that that looks, so that when I zoom out, it really brings a lot of dimension into the piece. So go ahead and do yours. I'm going to finish up mine. You can see I've had a chance to go all the way around here. I've got my red pencil back in my hand here. This is that Scarlet Lake. And I'm going to go into where we have Harari here, and I'm going to do a little bit of wallpaper. And wallpaper is just when you tangle with the color that you've been coloring with. And all I'm going to do is just add some lines to kind of make it look like this flower is variegated. So you can see that I'm just bringing that in, and just brings a little bit of interest into the piece here. So you can just see I'm just letting it drop down. And I'm only doing these with the flowers that are in the in-between, or the ones that are lining up with our ladybugs. So you can see that that just brings a little bit of interest into your piece. So go ahead and do yours. I'm going to do mine, and then when we come back, we're going to start to add a little bit of interest into the center. To add a little bit of interest into the center here, I'm going to start by picking up my red pencil, and I'm just going to do a dusting of red on the edges of these little nodes that are on the outside. And then I'll go in with a little bit of yellow and blur out those edges just a little bit. I'll come back in with a little bit of the red right on the edge here and just give that a little pop. And then you'll see that I'm going to pick up my white pencil if I can find it, because it looks like it got up and walked away. And I'm going to just clean that off here and do a little bit of blurring of my edges. So there you go. So I'm going to do that to all four of those little nodes. Now I'm also going in on the inside and doing the same exact thing to these pieces right in here. You can see that I'm adding a little bit of that darker red on the edges and then coming in with a little bit of that yellow. And then I'll blur it out with a little bit of that white. You can see I'm picking up the white and giving that a little softness. And then finally, what I'll start to do is I'll start to come into the center, but remember how we were using a little bit of that graphite before? We're going to bring some of that graphite into the piece here. So I'm going to go ahead and start just by going ever so lightly with that red. And then I'll come in and add a little bit of heaviness on the edges. So I'm pushing a little bit harder on that pencil, giving it a little drama. Once I've got that, I'm going to take a little bit of that graphite, run it along the edge here, giving this a little bit of shadow. And then I'll pick up my red again and just blur it out and set it. And I would say that I'm coming like halfway up each of those legs that we have here. I'm leaving kind of a pretty highlight in the middle. And I might take my yellow and just bring a little dash of that yellow in there just to create some warmth. Just like so. Really giving that kind of a neat feel. So go ahead and do yours. I'm going to do mine, and then when we come back, we're going to start to work outward. I'm going to leave that centerpiece alone for something else. Okay, so we're going to start to shift gears here and bring a different color set into the piece. So I've got two greens in my hand. I've got lime peel green, which is PC 1005, and then I also have in my hand the grass green, which is PC 909. We're going to start to work with Y4 here, and I'm going to just use a little bit of that lime peel green, and I'm going to just dust that central channel of Y4 here. So you're going to see me just work through here. And you'll notice that I'm leaving it a little bit lighter up at the top. Now, once I get down towards the bottom of Y4 here, I'm going to press a little bit harder and bring in a little bit more intensity for that lime peel green. Now I'm also going to pick up a little bit of that graphite pencil here, and I'm going to start to dust in a shadow at the bottom of Y4. I'll pick up a little bit more of that yellow, and let's go ahead and zoom in on that. This is the lime peel green, the lime peel green. And you can see that I'm setting that graphite, and I'm starting to work my way up the piece a little bit. And this is going to give that a really nice feel in there. Now I'm going to go all the way around and do that same technique in all of my Y4s. So you go ahead and do yours, and then when we come back, we're going to start to do the shading on the edge of Y4. Okay, so you can see I've had a chance to go all the way around. Let's go ahead and focus in on the shading areas for the outside of Y4. I'm going to come in and just lightly dust a little bit of graphite at the top and at the bottom over here. And then I'm going to go ahead and add in a little bit of gray right in here. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Doing a little dusting here and a little dusting there, and then a little bit of gray right behind. Now I'm going to pick up my blending stump here. If you don't have a blending stump, you can always use a Q-tip from the bathroom. And I'm just going to very, very lightly start to blur that out, almost like you would do with eyeshadow or eyeliner. And then I'll come back in one more time, and let's go ahead and zoom in on that there, and just add a little bit of that green right in the flaps there. And you can see that that's a really nice way to shade Y4. So I'm going to go ahead and do that all the way around here and get that really nice feeling of having dimension in that curl. So we're going to carry our greens just a little bit more here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start to bring in this really nice soft lime peel green into the background here. So I'm just bringing it in and starting to kind of bob and weave through where these little indentations are in here. So you can see that I'm just laying down that color really, really softly. Once I've had a chance to go all the way around with that, I'm actually going to let go of that lime peel green for a minute, and I'm going to pick up that really pretty grass green. And I'm going to start to do some shading with the grass green along the edge of where Harari is, our flower. And you can see that I'm working with little circles here to help build that drama. And as I move up, I'm kind of lightly letting that peter out a little bit. So I'm just working my way around and then letting it fade out. Then once I've got that, I'm going to come back in with a little bit of a heavier push. Just along the edge of Harari here to get some drama. Same thing in here. Just working on getting that drama to really start to spark. And then I'll come in with a little bit of that lime peel green again, and you guessed it, I'm going to blend it out. And you can see that that's going to bring a lot of interest into those leaves. Let that kind of dance down in there. Already starting to feel really complete in there, really looking nice. So go ahead and do yours. I'm going to do mine. I'm going to go through all 4 of these, and then when we come back, we're going to start to dust into these areas. So I've got the grass green in my hand here, and I'm going to start to just dust it into this part of our piece here. So you can see that I'm really just bringing that in nice and light. And I'm going to start to bring them throughout. And get this really soft kind of forest green, if you will, in here. Now, once I've got that the way that I want it, I'm going to start to bring some depth into it and give it some definition. And I'm just going to shade the one side. So I'm going to go through and shade just one side. And you can see that I'm giving this a little bit of a push. And I'll go over to the other side in here and do the same. Now once I've got that the way that I want it, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pick up my graphite pencil again, and I'm just going to give it a soft dusting of gray in the darker space. I'm not going all the way through, I'm just going partially through, giving that a little bit of the gray. And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to mute the color a little bit. Remember how I said that you have 3 different pencils? Well, it's almost like you've got 4 now, because when you add the gray into it, you can get this kind of more muted color with the graphite that you wouldn't have gotten before. So now you've got 4 colors in one. So you can see that I'm just letting that kind of flow through, just like so. So you go ahead and do yours. I'm going to finish up mine. Look at how pretty that looks when I zoom out. Isn't that cool? I love that feeling. So go ahead and do yours. I'm going to finish up mine, and then when we come back, we're going to start to work with our ladybugs a little bit. I hope you're enjoying this as much as I am. This is a really fun one for me. I don't know about you. Anyway, I am going to start to work with our little ladybugs, and I've got the red and the yellow back in my hands here that we were working with inside of our flower. I'm just going to start very, very lightly on this ladybug here and just add a dusting until I come to the very, very edge of the ladybug. So you're going to see me just drift downward a little bit. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and give this a little bit of heaviness right up towards the head of the ladybug here. So I'm really just getting that really deep red through in here, and I'll let this come down about halfway through the ladybug. And then to give this some interest in here, I'm going to go ahead and give it a little bit of yellow right along the edges. Almost as if the ladybug was shining in the sun. And the sun was giving it a little bit of a pickup. Now you can play with the color a little bit. I'm kind of bobbing back and forth with a little bit of that red and letting it dive down a little bit in here. But there's no mistake, that's a ladybug. And so what I'm going to do is I'm also going to pick up a little bit of my white pen and give it a little sheen so it looks like the sun is shining on her back here. And so I'm just going to go ahead and give this a little sheen if my pen is going to let me. We'll see if it will. No. There we go. So a little bit of a sheen, and you can even add in a little dot if you want to, just to get it to have a little bit of lightness there. So I'm going to go through and do all of my ladybugs just like that. So I have my graphite pencil in my hand and my blending tool here, and we're going to start to work just with the outside edges of the leaves. But don't those ladybugs look so fun? I just love them. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to come out to the outer edge, and I'm going to give a little bit of graphite here and then a little bit on the point here. You'll notice that I'm leaving a little bit of a sheen down the side here. So I'm just going to come in and give that a little bit of interest. And let's go ahead and zoom in on that a little bit. And I'm going to give that a little dusting with my blender. Now remember, if you don't have one of these blenders, a Q-tip will suffice. I use them all the time, so they're great. So you can see that what this does is it kind of gives a nod back to what we have going on in Y4. So I'm going to go ahead and do that in all my 4 corners. You go ahead and do yours. Remember to soften in your shoulders, let your breath be nice and full, and just enjoy what you're doing. So you can see I've done the edges. I'm going to take some of that and bring it on the inside. So I'm going to do a little dusting of gray right in here and right over here. And once again, I'll leave a little bit of light in some of these areas to keep it interesting. I just love the way that that looks. Just kind of gives it a more completed feel on the inside. You can see I'm going back in with a little bit more graphite, give it a little shadow. And then I'll go ahead and I'll dust it a little bit more. Now on that inner circle that I have in there, I'm going to pick up my greens again just for a moment here. And let's go ahead and zoom in on that. I'm going to bring in a little bit of that lime peel green, and you'll notice that I'm leaving a little white on that edge there. And then I'll bring in a little bit of that darker green just to get a little bit of interest in there. And I think it just brings your eye into the center of the piece. You can see I'm kind of blending this out there. And if you want to, you can bring in a little bit of your gel pen and give a little bit of a sheen in this, the darker side right in here, just a little lightness to keep that interesting. So go ahead and do yours. I'm going to do mine, and then when we come back, I want to talk about the outer edge for a moment. So if you wanted to call it a day and say, you know what, I'm done, this would be really beautiful, all just like this. But you know me, I'm not able to leave well enough alone, and so I'm just going to bring in my original so that you can see it. I did a little bit of blue on the outside edge, and I just feel like it brings the whole thing together. So let's show you how to do the blue if you want to, but I don't blame you if you wanted to leave it just like this, because I think this is very sweet and fun too. Okay, so let's go ahead and do it. So I love to work with the borders. For me, that is one of my favorite things to do. So I have two different colors in my hand right here. I have the light aqua, which is PC992, and I have the peacock blue, which is PC1027. If you don't have peacock blue, you can work with the Copenhagen blue. That's one that I use a lot in class. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start to dust the outside edge with that light aqua, and you can see that I'm going very, very lightly with this. And I'm just going to do half of the piece so that you can see what this is going to look like. So I'm just going to go ahead and dance around to the other butterfly here, or the other ladybug. You can see where my head's at. And then once I've got this going, I'm going to go ahead and bring my darker blue. This is the peacock blue. And I'm just running it along the edge. Just to give it a little bit of interest. And you can see that I'm not pressing hard with that peacock blue. We already know that it has a lot of pigment to it. So when you're doing something like this, you really don't have to press hard. Let's go ahead and zoom in on that. I'm going to come in and right along that black line here, I'm going to give it just medium pressure. I'm going to turn this. And then once I have that, I'm going to start to go along the edges with that lighter aqua, and I'm just going to start to blur it out a little bit, soften it up. Coming around the corner here. And you know what this does is it also helps to soften up the paper. If you've got a lot of toothiness, it kind of gives it a little bit of a glow. And then what I'm going to do next is I'm going to pick up a little bit of that white that we were working with and start to really treat this like it's pastel. And you can see that just by doing that, it really breaks up all of those lines. Look at how pretty that is. So that when I zoom out, look at how electric that corner is. It's really, really fun. So I'm going to go all the way around and finish up mine. Woo, sorry about that. That went a little further than I expected. So I'm going to go ahead and go all the way around on mine and finish it up. So to finish this off, I'm going to give this a little bit of an interrupted border. And I'm just going to go ahead and zoom in here so that you can see what I'm talking about. Some of you have seen me do this in class. It's where you have a line that goes all the way and then all of a sudden it gets interrupted by a couple of dots. And so I'm just going to carry that around the corner here and do some interruptions there. Let that ladybug interrupt it. Couple of interruptions here, and you can see that I'm going really lightly with that pen so that I don't gum it up. And just slowly making my way around. And I just think this gives it a little bit of personality on the outside edge. And so when I zoom out, you can see that that's really fun on that outside border. So if you want to, go ahead and do yours, and I'll do mine. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and put my chop into my piece. My chop is just my initial, and I'm just going to hide it right down here in the corner. And in the Zentangle world, when you put your chop into a piece, it's kind of your way of saying that you're done creating with the particular piece that you're working on. And it's a time where you can take a moment to express gratitude for the time that you took to actually create the piece. This is you time. This is the time that you shut the outside world out and do things that are good for your spirit. And that's what Zentangle is all about. So I hope you enjoyed the class. If you did, please give the video a thumbs up or a really nice review. Even better, tell a friend and share this class with a friend, or hit the subscribe button up at the top. The more people that find out about us, the more people who can try out Zentangle in color. If you'd like to share your work with us, you can come over to the Tangled Yogi Art community page on Facebook. All you have to do is answer the little security questions that let us know that you're not a robot, and then share your work with us. There's lots of really great students on there that share their work, and we have a really great community, and that's what this is really about. It's just about sharing the fun that you had. All right, so that's it for me. I'm Rami Marks. Until I see you next time, have fun and keep on tangling.